Good afternoon, Dr. Joel, Dr. Schreiner, Mrs. Lyons, faculty, staff, and my fellow students. If you cannot fly, then run. If you cannot run, then walk. If you cannot walk, then crawl, but by all means, keep moving. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Everybody on planet Earth has gone through or is going through a hardship in their life. Whether it is your parents going through a divorce or getting bullied at school, nobody is perfect and everybody has something in their life that is a struggle. Take Tom Cruise, for example. Cruise is somebody who is not only Hollywood's highest paid actor, but 14 of his films have grossed over $100 million domestically, and 20 have grossed over $200 million worldwide, leaving him with a grand total of $5.4 billion minimum from his films. What many people do not know is that Cruise grew up in near poverty, where his family was dictated by his abusive father, described by Cruise as a merchant of chaos. Cruise was badly beaten by his father, who Cruise called a bully and coward. Quote, "He was the kind of person where if something goes wrong, they kick you. It was a great lesson in my life. How he'd lull you in, make you feel safe, and then bang. For me, it was like, there's something wrong with this guy. Do not trust him. Be careful around him." A Chicago Tribune. This environment made it very hard for Cruise to be successful and prosper in the way he did. In my case, I did not grow up in a bad environment. In fact, I grew up around great people, including my mom, dad, and older sister, who are supportive in everything I do. I am very smart, athletic, and kind, just to name a few of my positive attributes. But as everybody does, I have a flaw: my height. Before knowing about my condition, I never let this get to me, as I thought at the time I was just a late bloomer, and sooner or later I would grow to be as tall as my dad, who, by the way, is 6'2". As time went on, I became more and more conscious of my growth, constantly checking my height on the back of the closet door just to see if I would grow by 1 centimeter, but nothing. Over time, I would grow, but not to the extent me or my parents would like. After months of waiting and scheduling, I finally arrived at the doctor's office to see if they could figure out what was going on. The very next day, I received news that I needed to take blood tests, which if you did not know, use needles. And I did not like needles, so as you can imagine, I was not happy about this trip, but alas, I had to go. A week or two later, I arrived at the doctor and walked inside to take the blood tests. The entire time, I was wincing at the pain, waiting for it to end. And when it did, I bolted out of the room and into the lobby to see my parents, just so I could leave. A couple of weeks later, my mom, dad, and I were called back into the doctor's office. Lucky for me, it was just a meeting, so there were no needles involved, or so I thought. When my parents and I were brought into the room, we were sat down and told some of the most important things we had ever heard about me. I was growth hormone deficient. What this means is that I had to take a needle every single day to keep up with everybody else in height. And as I said before, if there's one thing I do not like, it's needles. The first day of taking the needle, I was crying. When my parents gave me the injection, not because of the needle itself, though it was some of that too. I cried because I knew this was going to be my life for the next 7 years. After 1 month, I told my parents I wanted to give myself the injection. When I took it this time, the only signs of pain were shown on my face through its wincing expression. The more I did it, the more comfortable I got taking the needle. That same summer, I was having the time of my life at a sleepaway camp called Camp Dudley, located in upstate New York. Every day, I would wake up, have breakfast, play sports, and participate in fun activities for the rest of the day. After a long day of sports, good food, and warm summer weather, I went to bed, only to wake up in the middle of the night feeling very itchy. I got myself out of my bottom bunk and took the long, tedious walk to the camp's infirmary. When I arrived, I pressed my finger on the buzzer, alerting the present nurse that there was somebody there waiting to see me. After minutes of waiting, no one showed up. Because of this, I decided to rub anti-itch cream onto the red spots of my body and trudge myself back to my cabin, ultimately rolling back into bed and falling asleep. Every day of camp after that, I would wake up with red welts all over my body and my eyes being almost swollen shut. Finally, when I was reintroduced to my parents after 3 weeks, my family and I went on a trip to Costa Rica. During that time, I got a disease from the water, resulting in me having to take even more medicine. When I came back to the trip, I thought I was in the clear. However, I still had to take the needle, even though it had become first nature for me. The true problem was that large red spots still resided on my skin, which I thought were just mosquito bites from camp. My parents, praying for my safety, brought me to the doctor so they could make sure there was nothing wrong. As truth would tell it, I was diagnosed with chronic spontaneous urticaria, more commonly known as hives. This not only made it so I had to take 6 pills a day, 3 in the morning and 3 at night, but I also had to take another needle every month due to it being one of the most severe cases of this disease doctors have seen in years. Great. Right as I was getting into the groove of my daily injection, I was forced right out again due to my newfound hives. At this point in my life, I started to lose hope in myself. I was unable to focus in class due to my constant itchiness and thoughts of needles. This reflected in my grades, turning my A average quarter into an A- average. Not only this, but my disorders also affected my mental health drastically, causing me to have constant mood swings and even sometimes taking it out on the people that I love. The one thing that kept me going, however, was soccer. Touches on the ball every day was my escape from reality, a sanctuary. I used this to distract myself from the dread of needles and hives. Every day, I would repeat the same process. Wake up, take 3 pills, go to school, take the bus home, complete my homework, play soccer, take my second wave of medicine, including the second set of pills as well as my injection, take my shower, and go to bed. Fast forward 9 months, and I was now at a time where I finally adjusted to my daily medications and was most importantly happy. It was so refreshing to finally be myself again, as well as being able to participate in normal activities without having to keep my mind on itchiness and injections. Not only this, but my grades also continue to improve along with my soccer skills. With this in mind, I hope you all realize that in life, there will always be times when you are down. But in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., you have to keep moving and remember that there is always a light at the end of the tunnel. So stay strong. Thank you.